so you mentioned being on an acid trip, and I know we had talked before, and some people are going to be like, "Whoa, they're really switching gears here." But we talked before on your podcast, and you're very open with it. And we talked before we went live here. You kind of struggled with some substance abuse stuff, in your past. Do you want to kind of take us through a little bit of that and explain how you've gotten to the point that you're at now?
Well, yeah. But what do you want to know?
Well, I
Because
want to know. So
you
you
can,
mentioned before that you had some issues with, I believe you said cocaine, right?
right, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And so how old are you now?
I'm 18.
You're 18 now.
Yeah, I'm 18.
Okay. And so you had issues with cocaine when? How young were
Okay.
you?
All right. So I had started around maybe like 15, but didn't progress super heavy until like 16
How do you get
around there.
exposed to that at 15?
Okay. Listen, I don't want to, before I even say anything, I don't want to sound like the kind of guy who knows everything, but
Mhm.
I will tell you one, because I'm about to sound like an old man talking about, I'm about to tell you that this is shit I've come to learn. I saw with my own eyes. I've seen with my own eyes at the young age, thank God. And definitely the people we hang around with. Like, I believe in that saying so much. You are who you hang around with. Like
Yeah, people say like you're the average of like the 5 people you spend the most time with.
it's so true. It's like that. That's why I got hooked on what I was hooked on, man. Just
Hmm.
bad friends, bad influences, and it's sort of I smoked a lot of weed and stuff like that. And then just came to one day I was smoking with one of my friends, and he whipped out some wicked shit. I knew what it was in my head because I've never done it, but I've definitely the people I've been around. I've seen it, and it wasn't cocaine necessarily. It was actually meth,
Oh my
and
gosh. Okay.
yeah, and and don't before you start judging me, all right?
I'm not judging you. I
No, not
mean,
you. I'm talking about anyone who watches this, because everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, like it's fucking dumbass, shouldn't have done it." But I'll tell you one thing, man. It's after so much of smoking weed, man, you get tired of it, and you're like, "Man, I want something else," and that's
okay.
what contributed to that. And it was he was like, "Just take a hit of this," and I took a hit, and one thing led to another. It was like the best fucking thing ever, man. Like I took one hit, and it was like it
What
was
was a step up from what you were doing, right? Your
yeah,
body was a
because
different high.
when when you're smoking weed, it's a downer, but then when you're smoking meth, it lifts you up. And so it's like this makes no sense, but it's like if God had opened up the curtains and just all the sun let in, like I was just bright, man. Everything was so bright. I was like, it was amazing, and that's when it starts, man.
And
That's
so yeah, so it was you kind of were just, man, you're like a guidance counselor's dream right now. Like they need to
yeah,
bring you in when they do their talk, because everybody goes like a guidance counselor's always like, weed is a gateway drug, and everyone's like, oh fuck you, bro. And then here you are explaining like a
yeah,
situation where you were just kind of always smoking with some friends, and then that happened. Not to say, I'm someone who's I don't smoke myself and never have, but I'm not against people smoking weed. I think there's a lot of benefits that come out of it. I think if it's right for you, do it. I try not to judge people on that, but so you're around this group of people, and this happens, and it kind of is like a level up for you almost in your substance use.
hmm
When do things start to not feel like God is blessing you? When does it start to feel like, oh shit, I'm doing meth? Like, as crazy as that is to say. And I know we've joked about this in private, so I don't mean to like make it sound
no,
like a
no,
joke,
no,
but
no.
when does it start to hit like, oh shit? Cuz like even saying that sentence, it's like crazy to a lot of people,
Right.
myself included. Like even saying, like, I couldn't imagine, like, man, I'm like saying I've smoked meth. Like that's a crazy thing to get to, right? But it seems so regular when you're around a group of people like that facilitates it.
Yeah, and before that, I just want people to know if you can't joke about it, then don't talk about it. I think that's a big thing. I think you,
Yeah, we talked about that in
yeah,
in private. If you can't laugh at yourself or anything you've done, then what's
yeah,
the point of being here, man?
exactly. But back to what you were saying, it actually became so. At first, it was crazy because I was like, man, I can't believe I'm smoking meth. But that became so regular to me. I was just like, oh shit, I'm gonna go smoke some meth today. Like it became so like, all right, let's just go do it. And uh I was still at school at the time. So,
Mhm.
you know, it got to the point where you didn't want to miss out, right? Like, well, I'm not gonna smoke meth during school. Like, where the fuck am I gonna do? Like, it's a whole fucking process. Like, to those who don't know, like, you gotta heat the fucking thing up, and it's like it's a whole process. So then, you start finding like much more convenient ways to do it, and that's when another friend, which was now at this point I was like 16, gonna turn 17. Another friend kind of like is like, hey, you should dabble with cocaine. Like, it's a lot more straightforward. Put it in your wallet, take out your wallet, sniff from your wallet, you'll be fucking set. It's like,
Wow.
okay,
Yeah.
it's why not? And so I started dabbling with that, and that sort of took me away. That's what I sort of really uh fell in love with. Now, there's a big thing between, because these are uppers, these are all uppers, these keep you up for days.
Mhm.
Many people like to do it because it makes them so productive.
Yeah.
They like to do it because it's like, oh well, I just did all this and that. I like to do it because I love the hallucinations. When you're up, look at me. I'm a skinny guy, man. So it doesn't take much to knock my ass down. And
Mhm.
when I go maybe like 3-4 days without sleeping, you're bound to see some shit. And I have. And I I've been, let's see, I've been in my living room, had no sleep for like 4 or 5 days. I'm just like,
Yeah.
man, and I
Does this happen regularly? You just like are missing out on sleep like this to try and hallucinate, or is it not? Is it kind of
well,
by chance that it happens?
it happens when your intake becomes so high.
Okay.
So it's like yeah, and so at this point but you don't even know it's been 5 fucking days. I swear to God. In my head, it's been like 2 days, man. In my head, I just woke up, but it's been like so fucking long.
Still 2 days without sleeping, bro. I'd be screaming at people. I'd be irritable as fuck. I'd be falling asleep in my car. Like that's insane. I've had friends that have dealt with some stuff similar, and other friends that just deal with like really bad sleep apnea, and they just like don't sleep. I mean, I myself am really bad at have issues falling asleep, but like, dude, I couldn't imagine. I mean, did you ever see like a hallucinated version of yourself being like, "Yo, John, go to fuck to bed. It's 5 days in, bro. What are you doing?"
um, okay, it's gonna sound weird, but I would actually see, like, how do I put this? Like little people, like
Okay.
dwarfs, like dwarves.
Okay.
If you're following me around, man.
Holy shit. So you like when you're hallucinating 5 days without sleep, you turn into Snow White.
Like,
Is that
yeah,
what
fuck
happens?
yeah,
And they're
exactly,
just
man.
cleaning up your house and they're just getting you
But
ready.
like it's cool because now when like I'm sober or whatever, I look back at this and I'm the kind of person who's like, well, maybe that was a sign, right? Maybe these little dwarves had a fucking purpose for being there. I saw them for a reason, maybe. And it's like they wouldn't say nothing to me, but it was just so fucking weird because they were so real, man. Like, it wasn't like when you're on acid or LSD, it's fake because it's like as vivid as it seems. Like you're seeing colors and shit that it's just impossible to see. But when you're like on coke or meth, it's just so fucking real, man. It's
So
like,
where does like the I feel like we're painting these substance abuses in a really positive light. When does it get bad? When does it start taking the toll on your life? Because I don't want, obviously it did because you had to move past it. But like when did that start to happen? Because I feel like
um, uh,
obviously there is from any drug the high is a high. It's for a reason. It's
exactly,
called that for a reason.
exactly.
It's the part that is the appeal, but there's the consequences of said high. Is
Mhm.
that what kind of how did that start affecting your life, and when did you start seeing effects of that?
So I started sort of seeing the change when I started seeing the change in myself, in a sense that I wasn't acting like myself anymore after a while. I was getting very like hot headed. I was getting very ballsy, I guess would be the thing.
Taking
And
some risks you don't normally take.
yeah, and with no regard to the consequence until I find myself in a position where I'm like, fuck, and this happened, I don't want to get too much into it, but like with a lot of shady people and stuff like that. So
And you kind of
but
then you had like that realization, like, oh shit, like that self-awareness to be like, oh, I'm around this
Yeah.
group of people. I would have never thought that I would be here. And
Like, yeah, it was one thing doing like this shit with like buddies
yeah.
compared to now like doing it with people. I'm like, fuck, I don't even know you, man.
Mhm.
But aside from that, physically, when you start coming down to ask me or try to picture how you would feel, how your body would feel after 5 days of no sleep on being like on the top of the mountain to now you're just going
Oh, dude,
down.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine with like substances involved. I mean, I know, dude, this last week I barely slept at all because we literally I got done with the show on Monday. Well, just to let people know, and shout out to everybody who did. I know we're in the middle of a very serious conversation, but shout out to everybody who's been checking out the stuff we released this week. It was like what I'm about to say on Sunday. Had to finish this track that I was putting out this week, and usually I'd be putting like I submit it much earlier than that. So I had to mix and master the song like that night. The guy came in to finish his part. Shout out Jay Rachi, and he finished his part. I couldn't even get it finished. I had to work on it up until like it was like 2 in the morning of on Monday, and I submit it, and then I sleep in as much as I can the next day. But I forget what I had to take. I had shit to take care of before the podcast, so I'm doing shit whatever all day. Then I get here, do the podcast with my friend Lewis. It was a great episode, and the next day, so after he leaves, I'm like continuing because I've been planning doing a video shoot for that
Right.
song I just submitted.
Which
But I
was
had
really good, by the way.
well, thank you. I
Yeah, it was
appreciate
really
that.
good, man.
I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who was involved too. It was a lot of fun putting that together. But so I end up not going to sleep till it was like I got back in my house at like 1:30 or like 2 a.m. And because I was talking with the cinematographer and working out all the details of pre-production, where we're gonna be going, like what we're gonna be doing, and like what we can do. And I get home, and then our cats are going crazy, and I don't end up falling asleep till like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I had to be up at 5 to go get the cinematographer because he's like 45 minutes away. So and he doesn't have a car, so I had to go get him. So then I get up at 5 to go get him, and so I haven't slept at all, and I go get him, and then we shot from. I picked him up at 6 because it was like took me like 45 minutes to get to his house, and so it was like around 6 when I got him, and then we were working on the video, shooting wise and like filming everything until like 9 o'clock at night, and then we finished. We hung out for a minute, ate some food, and I drove him home, and then the next day I was editing for like 9 hours. Like I woke up early because I needed to get to editing. So I couldn't even sleep. I had to like 5 hours of sleep, and then I'm editing for like 8 9 hours. Had some shit I had to take care of. So then I get back, and I'm editing all night until like 2 in the morning, and then I again tried to sleep in a little bit on Thursday, but I ended up only sleeping until like 9, and so I like gotten like 5 hours, 6 hours the whole week, or something like that. It was like terrible, and I ended up getting everything done. It was great, it was awesome, but it was a fucking lot, and I know how my body felt during that, so I couldn't imagine adding like a layer of from substance as well, and like feeling like really locked in for one moment, and then you're when you skip out on sleep, there's like a saying they told us in like health class where it's like every hour you miss, it's like a brick going into a backpack. Like your body doesn't forget that. Like
Yeah.
you might be like, oh yeah, no, fuck that, like whatever. Your body knows it needs that sleep. So you can miss 1 hour tonight, and then 1 hour tomorrow. You're carrying around 2 extra bricks. It's slowing you down, and I couldn't imagine like having like 20 or so bricks in that bag like you probably had, and but not feeling it at all because you're on something, and then the second that goes away, it's like all 20 of them hitting you at once.
I'll give you a good example. Or not, well, not example, but I'll tell you something weird. When so this is gonna okay, and I feel bad saying this because I'm fucking like showing you the good side of it, but I'll get to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bad side right now. But when there comes a point where you're doing so much coke, man, and this could just be me because everyone's different. You feel like you're walking on air. You don't feel the sole of your feet touch the ground anymore. You feel like you're walking,
You're
walking on
Jesus.
air.
So
Yeah,
enough
exactly.
if you do enough cocaine, it will turn you into Jesus. Is that that's
Exactly.
what you're saying?
Just
Wow.
don't throw me into water because I can't swim. So
Well,
walk on
you
water.
float. You'll just walk right over it. Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs, kids, please. I already have a
Yeah.
highlight on this channel of people thinking I'm telling them to take melatonin gummies, and it's not the case.
Listen,
But
if if you take the drug will take you. Period. That's it. That's how it is.
So when
Because
does that start to happen for you then?
physically, when I was coming down,
And
uh
when did you decide to get clean then?
I think it was a cycle, because when you come down, you don't want to feel the come down, right? So you get high again. And like
Hmm.
you got to keep that cycle going. And trust me, it'll get to the point where you're gonna do so much. You're just kind of like, my dad's always said, your body's like a computer. You're gonna do so much, it's just gonna crash. And you're gonna shut off.
Hmm.
And in this case, that's like an overdose or whatever. But it it the way I was feeling physically, the way I was looking, because at this point I was already going to school. I was walking to school. My teacher, I'm not gonna mention his name, but he was super cool. He would kind of look at me and he'd say like, you look like shit, man. Like
Hmm.
I got long hair. I got like I was fucking I had fucking I was just I don't know. I just looked like shit, man.
Hmm.
And these are signs that started telling me, hey man, I think I need to take a step back. I would walk into school, I'd be so coked out. I'd be like, fuck, I'd be hearing shit. I'd be hearing voices. I'd be like looking, and this teacher's like, "You all right, man?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm cool." And he'd pull me aside and be like, "You can't be here, dude. Like you're just so
You
like." He knew
fucked
what was
up.
going on.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
knew you were fucked up.
yeah. And so but they were all cool, and he was like, "Let's just leave for now." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And I'd be walking to the Circle K, like sniffing shit out of my wallet on the way there. Like, just it was so bad, man. That's in the way I was feeling physically. These different signs of people telling me like, hey, you're here at the wrong moment was a sign that I needed to get clean. And and to some it may not sound like a big fucking realization, but to me at the moment it was. And I kind of told myself I'm too young for this.
So it kind of just took you a lot of people in your life that are just around you maybe, and it took you noticing that they noticed
Mm-hmm.
to kind of be like, okay, maybe I need to steer the ship the other direction.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I had an amazing group of buddies. None of these guys contributed to me getting involved with this in the first place,
Hmm.
but these guys, really good friends of mine, they'd always laugh about it. That I'd always be, as they say, tweaked out around them
Hmm.
and stuff like that, and they still accepted me the same. And so yeah, the big step was to get clean, and I did. Again, this teacher will remain nameless, but another teacher sort of helped me through the process. I reached out to him, and he sort of helped me out as well. So he knows who he is, but
What's the process look like for those? Obviously, I'm
um,
not aware, so I wouldn't know.
right. So it kind of depends how you want to take it or what route you want to take. I did like NA meetings, and a little bit of rehab work and just stuff like that. But NA meetings are the fucking best. Because like if I sat here and I started telling you what it feels like getting off of drugs, some of the shit I say you'd be like, well, that makes no fucking sense. But
Yeah.
until you're around a group of people that know what it's like,
Hmm.
then you will feel that sense of comfort, like that you could share what it's like. And once you share, it's everything, man. So like, to people who hold it in, don't hold it in. Like find someone you can confide in, and then that they will understand you, and just let it out, because that shit will eat you alive. And
Yeah.
that was happening to me, not being able to tell people.
I could imagine. I mean, it's a very personal, inner struggle that you're going through,
Mm.
and I bet it's probably really hard to even to put that to words in the first place, and then probably even harder to put that, to kind of go through the mental um, hurdles that you'd have to finally say something, and then how hard it would be to have somebody not really understand it. So I totally get, by being around it, a group of people that also get it, how that would be helpful. That makes sense.
Yeah. And but yeah, that was only the first step. So I did all the NA meetings, and I got clean. But once you get clean, then the real battle begins into steering away from it as much as possible.
Hmm.
And that's when I'm going to say that I found this book that I could honestly say sort of changed my life, man. And it's called The Book of Five Rings.
Okay.
And I see it on my feed on Instagram, and that sort of it was it, man. I just read that, And I've never read a book that just sparked so much light in me. And it's because of that book that I will say that I so far stayed sober. The teachings of that book that have contributed to my sobriety today. Um,
Wow,
so
that's a crazy book then, man.
yeah, so but yeah, that's sort of my journey of addiction, and I'm so thankful that I lived it at such a young age when I didn't have much to lose compared to when you dabble with that shit, like when you got a full-time job where you're trying to work, like you have so much more to lose. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad I lived that experience at such a young age,
You're
and some
past it now. You beat it. That's.
yeah,
I mean, you're still obviously you said like the work is you still have to deal with putting in the work every day, but it's really cool that you've been able to kind of overcome that and not let something like that stop you. Especially I know you said you're happy that it happened to you younger as opposed to older, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who might see like the age attached to it and be like, oh, they might think like, well, I'm already addicted to this and I'm whatever age, I'm young, I'm 15, I'm already addicted to this, or 16, like what's my life going to be like if I already got addicted to drugs, blah 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 blah.
right.
But even they can take your story as an example. It doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean that's what you're going to be, or that your life's not going to be successful. Like you get to decide that, and you did, and that's what I really applaud you for that. I know we talked about it a little bit briefly, but I'm kind of glad you got to explain it a little bit more, and I really appreciate you opening up about that.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Yeah, so it I guess to anyone who is like sort of going through that, I guess the best thing I could say is find someone that you trust and ask for help. And I know that's probably the toughest fucking part about it, because you have to accept it. The only way you'll get clean is if you accept you're an addict.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like you'll never ever get over it. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, you have to find that person that you trust, and once you accept it, have them help you, because at least in my opinion, I was, you know, being an addict. I don't think I would have ever taken the leap to call these meetings and stuff like that while being addicted. I would have never done that. So
Yeah.
definitely find that person that can help you, and it'll get better, man.
Thanks for watching that last video. Click right over here to see that episode in its entirety. Click over here if you want to subscribe and see more videos and other cool shit that we put out on this channel. Do it.